right, well, let's get started. For those of you that are in attendance right now, I want to introduce Bill.Stouffer, Beaver County Association of Realtors affiliate. He is with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. He is their VP of Mortgage Lending and their Regional Renovation Specialist. Bill's been a member with our association for a lot of years, and today he has brought a friend with him to talk to our realtor members about how to expand your reach in this tight market. So, Bill?
Hey, thank you, Rose. I am really excited to be here, and I'm thrilled to be able to share renovation lending with you and 203K products in particular. As my friend Peter will review with you, FHA is 110% financing. You should never, never, never lose a deal because there's a property issue such as a roof, and a buyer should never buy a house that just has window air conditioners. For just a few dollars, you can put in central air and really improve that buyer's quality of life. You guys, you agents, should be able to sell more homes by keeping an open mind, paying attention to what 203K financing can do for you, and learning how to handle seller objections. And if you're a listing agent, 203K is your buyer's best or your seller's best friend. Sorry, Peter, I just can't help it.
Oh, that's all right. It doesn't bother me.
So Peter Lustig is a HUD consultant. He does a great job. He's just a wealth of information. And I think, and I'm always delighted to hear what he has to say about our favorite subject, 203K and Fannie Mae home-style renovation loans. Peter?
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And thank you, Rose. Thank you for having me today. Nice to meet everyone. And I'm going to share my screen, and I'll take you through the PowerPoint presentation that I've prepared. And we'll probably spend, about half an hour going through it. And I was speaking to Rose a little bit before we got started, because I would like it to be interactive, and I don't want to seem like I'm sitting here running my mouth for 45 minutes. Anyone with questions, please stop me, ask me. It also helps me gauge that I'm connecting with the people that I'm speaking with, right? So at any time that you want me to clarify something, or you want me to repeat something, or just go more in depth, please, right? It lets me know that I'm connecting with you. So I'm going to share my screen, and I hope that all works. And let's see, here we go. And we'll hit share. Am I sharing my screen?
You're looking great. Yes,
okay,
it looks
cool.
Wonderful.
All right, so what we're going to talk about today is how to expand your inventory with renovation loans. And I try to make this a little bit visual so that I can show you a bunch of before and after stuff, right? Everyone likes to see pictures of what it used to look like and what we did with it. Everything that you see in here are actual projects that we have completed. A lot of them are pretty dramatic, right? And I always tell people, try to look at the trees, some windows that stay in place, front doors that stay in place. So you'll see as I work my way through it, these are actual projects that we've done. All right. Sorry, my mouse is a little sensitive. All right. So we are 203K and homestyle consultants. We've helped numerous realtors solve low inventory issues by using renovation loans. The numbers here are actually a little bit behind. At this point, we'll do about 550 new projects this year. We will do about 1,400 draws. We have about 250 active sites at any one time. We do probably north of $45 million of renovation as a company. I've been doing it about 10 years. We've done 2,500 to 3,000 of these loans. We've learned some of these gray hairs that you see here on my beard are actually, they have individual projects names on them. You learn only by doing it, right? There's manuals and manuals and manuals. As Bill can attest, that the manuals are a good starting point. They offer some guidance, but how it's really done is derived simply from experience. So let me go on to the next one. We covered 12 states, 10 licensed consultants, full-time professional experience administrative staff. We wear two hats, Pre-closing, we work together with borrower and contractor to establish the construction budget. Once the loan closes, we become the inspectors who advise the lenders how much money to release to the borrower and contractor as the work is completed. And those are the two key things that we bring to the project, right? We want to make sure that we have a market rate budget for the project, and that once the loan closes, we're releasing the money as rapidly and as quickly as possible, while always making sure that the borrower still retains enough funds for another contractor to step in if that ever becomes necessary. Let's see, I'm gonna go to the next one. All right, so renovation loans are buy and upgrade loans, right? There's two kinds. FHA has 203K, Fannie Mae has home style. From where we sit, from a construction point of view, it's largely the same. There's some nuance here and there on the construction side. The main differences are on the lender side in terms of qualification. So if you have those questions, you might want to ask those to Bill. He's much more better versed on it than I am from the borrower stuff. In general, anything that is construction related, you can knock on my door and we'll get it answered. Anything that is borrower related would be Bill's area that he would be able to best answer. Same qualifying criteria as standard FHA and Fannie Mae loans. At closing, the repair monies are escrowed with the lender, and then, as I mentioned before, released as the work is completed. 1 to 4 family owner-occupied properties are eligible. Fannie Mae does allow investors. So you can also position this with people who are investors that might have run out of money. And Bill can tell you in terms of what percentage down and what criteria the Fannie Mae investor program allows. But you can, under 203K, you can't, it has to be owner occupied. Under Fannie Mae, you can do an investor. Most repairs and upgrades are eligible. FHA has something that says luxury upgrades are not eligible, but no one has ever told me what a luxury is. I think an elevator might be luxury, but if it's someone who has a physical disability, no, I would think an elevator is a health and safety thing. So, most upgrades are eligible, and even pool repairs. You can do health and safety repairs under FHA 203K for a pool, and I think under Fannie Mae Homestyle, you can put in a new pool if you want. So, there's quite a broad range, right? As long as you're generally compliant with what the local construction official mandates, you're generally able to do what it is that you would want to do. If you want to get into the weeds on any of this stuff, it's on my website. You can also ask me for a copy. It's called our Renovation Financing Summary. It's 3 pages. I tried to write it in English with the least amount of construction and mortgage jargon. In fact, I had my wife proofread it for me and take out things because she says, "What's DTI?" Well, it's debt to income ratio, right? So, and she's in the healthcare field, so she was a perfect person to proofread it. So she did. It's written in as plain English as I can, and it covers a lot of the most commonly asked questions and details that we run into both pre-closing and post-closing. Okay. Oh, let's see. Oh, here we get into some of the actual projects. So if you'll see here along the bottom of it, I'm going to be talking about something called buyer's equity, right? Which we all understand. And I'll speak more about this in a minute, but this was an expanded square foot project. They bought it for $275. They upgraded it for $150. And what they did was they put a second level on it, right? And let's see, well, the trees are in bloom in one, but if you see the front door and the 2 windows up there are the same. You'll see this is one window with little side louvers on it. Liz's still over there, right? And then what they did was they popped the top on it. They put 2 bedrooms and a bath over the existing first floor bath, spent about $150,000 to do it. This is something that we do all day, every day, right? People like the neighborhood. They like the taxes, right? They go start looking for a house. They can't find themselves a house. But the little house down the block that is the Cape, if we expand it and the right price, now all of a sudden look at that. We can upgrade the property. And if we're careful on what we spend and we don't go put gold-plated finishes in, now we wind up with buyer's equity. And it's what I'm going to talk about a little more, right? You can upgrade baths. I'm sure everyone likes the pink bath. I actually saw a periwinkle one not so long ago that I really liked. It was, the guy wanted to demo it and change it. I was like, are you sure? It's kind of nice. But we do a lot of these, right? So you get a nice modern look, take it from one of these. And this was one of those, everything out, everything in. We do those all the time. Same thing with kitchens, right? And you get an older kitchen that really could use an upgrade. Borrower loves the house, loves the location, loves the taxes, says nasty pink bathroom, nasty green kitchen. Said, no, I got a solution for you, right? We can do a renovation loan on this property. All right, so this is actually the slide that is the heart of the presentation. If you wish, and I know that Rose said she would send around stuff, but if you wish, you might want to take a picture of this, right? Because this is the idea behind what we're doing, right? So let's say that we're buying, you have two houses that are $400,000 that you can show to your clients. They don't need upgrades, but they don't like them. Do you have anything else to show us? No. Well, would you consider a $325,000 house, a $300,000 house, or a $275,000 house that is somewhat distressed and requires upgrades? If your borrower is that kind of borrower, and many first-time home buyers, especially younger people these days, are. We have found that Home and Garden Television drives our business. We are the happy beneficiaries of Home and Garden Television. I mean, what you saw us in those pictures is, I say this sometimes to people, we do Home and Garden Television for real, right? So let's say you have the two $400,000 houses, they don't like it. All right, well, what about a 325, a 300, and a 275 that needs upgrades of 50, 65, or 85? At the end of the day, those houses fixed up are still going to be worth $400,000. And if the borrower is careful, they will have $25,000, $35,000, or $40,000 in equity. If they spend too much money, they won't have the equity, but they get the house that they want, right? And if they're careful, they get equity as well. They're going to have to renovate the house, right? It's going to take them time to do it, but they will now have a house that is complete, that is to their liking, that they don't have to first live in for a couple of years and then do piecemeal, right? And they will decrease their repair costs, right? So if you put in a new water heater today, it's going to last 10, maybe 8 to 10 years, right? If you take an old water heater on a house that you're inheriting from the previous person, well, guess what? That might not work in the next year. Right, so you're going to reduce your repair cost as well as, get a brand new house. Well, not a brand new house, but get a renovated house and equity in the property as well. So I want to pause here a second. Does anyone have questions on this piece of it right here? Because this is the meat of the presentation.
And so for all of you that are with us today, I will be able to email this PowerPoint or this particular slide, depending on what Peter gives me permissions for, to all of you, if you're not going to do a screen grab. And if you kind of joined us a little bit later, Peter and Bill want you to jump in with questions. You don't have to wait or put your questions in the chat. Just unmute yourselves and feel free to ask your question.
And they have to be pre-approved for the finished amount, correct?
I would generally, the way this works is Bill will do a pre-approval for them. He'll give a budget, a maximum budget. We'll take a look at the property, maybe show me a couple of Zillow pictures. If you tell me, look, they can afford 50, it's a small 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. They require some upgrades of finishes. In general, it's okay. I'll tell you, yeah, you've got a valid transaction. It's going to be able to close. We do that on a regular basis, right? We answer the phone all the time saying, people ask us, well, I have this kind of house. Can you take a quick look at it for me? Sure, happy to do it, right? If it's going to work, I can tell you pretty quickly if it's going to work.
And would we contact you first or Bill?
I would probably suggest you contact Bill first, just to make sure that, maybe to clarify for me, I'm assuming that you do pre-approvals before taking out your clients, right? So that you're not wasting your time?
Right. So Bill would do the pre-approval based on what the finished appraised amount would be?
You ask a very interesting question, right? So these loans are constrained by two things, the borrower's ability, so debt to income ratio, also known as back ratio, and future appraised value. These houses are appraised as repaired. So on
Correct.
the scenarios below, you would have a purchase contract for 325, then you'd have a write-up for from us for 50. The appraiser will look to do comparables in the area as repaired. Right, so you're going to wind up with $400,000 comparables, not $325,000 comparables.
So we need the contractor bid along with the offer at the time? No?
No. So our licenses require us to do an independent estimate of the market rate value of the work. That means that if you have a contractor bid, by all means, share it with us. If we agree with it and the contractor has good numbers, it's going to reflect our bid. If you don't have one, don't need that either. We will put out a specification of repairs to the borrower. With a simple click of our software, we can eliminate the pricing off of that. Now you can share that scope of work with multiple contractors so that you have the ability to secure bids that are easy to compare. So you're not doing what's called bid leveling in our business, and that's trying to compare apples to pears. Right? If you have a contractor walk in and he comes up as a carpenter, he's going to give you carpentry stuff. If he comes up as a plumber, you're going to have great heat and great water and all that. If he came up as an electrician, the lights are going to work everywhere, right? So having specifications put together by us. And I should talk a little bit about required items and desired items, right? And I know this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but it matters. So when we do a walkthrough of the house, we will go in and do an assessment of required items. Required items are everything that we would expect the local construction official or FHA's health and safety guidelines to mandate. Generally, it tends to be items that are either worn out or things that are not functional or dangerous. To that, we add desired items. The combination of required and desired items should not exceed the borrower's ability to borrow and the future appraised value. And I'll use the example below again. So let's say we have that purchase contract of 325, right? And I'm told by you and Bill as part of the pre-approval process, don't go for a budget north of 50. The first of that 50 is going to be spent on required items. So let's say we see that it needs a roof and that there's some plumbing issues, the stairs might need railings, that kind of stuff. We would say, okay, maybe that's $10,000 worth of required items. Now, the borrower has $40,000 left for their desired items, right? If they want to update kitchens and baths and do flooring and paint and all that, we will make sure that they do not exceed the $40,000 in desired items. So the budget is made up of required first, then desired, not to exceed the future appraised value of the house. And by the way, the best folks to help us determine future appraised value are you, the realtors. And you have access behind the firewall of the MLS. You better than anyone can give us comps, right? You can tell us, hey, don't go north of it. It might be a case where Bill says, yeah, you know what, these people can afford 50, but you as the realtor step in and say, you know what, I don't think this house is going to appraise for more than X, so don't go north of 40. Right? These are conversations that are good to have. And the reason I say that is because I've built my business, so I'm only working on transactions that'll close. And the fussing that we do up front, the conversations that we have along the lines of what I just suggested, we'll make sure we're only going to collectively work on a transaction that's going to close. Right? And it's all free. It's a 15-minute conversation. It's free. You talk to Bill and Bill will say, yeah, these folks can't go north of 50. You might chime in and say, you know what, this house will never appraise for more than 40 above what it's asking. Now I know that we go in and we say, okay, 10 for required. All right, borrower has 30 left for desired. Maybe they don't get the finished basement or the spiral staircase to the captain's walk on the roof. And we gently and diplomatically back them off of their desired items that don't have the biggest return on investment. So I don't know who asked that question, but thanks for asking the how do we make sausage question. That's what I call this question. It's a good question. I like it, right? It's one that I like talking about. Now, does that answer what you were curious about?
Yeah, and I have a couple more, but you'll probably go on with it, so I don't want to jump the gun.
You can ask. Go ahead. I mean, if you
Okay.
want, go for it.
Can it be various contractors? Because years ago, when I went to one of these classes, they said it had to be only a general contractor and not a bunch of a carpenter, electrician, plumber, et cetera.
So the lenders generally prefer a GC for accounting purposes. They do allow multiple contractors, but what happens is that it can be difficult to put the paperwork together so that releasing funds to multiple contractors is challenging, right? So let's say that I have heat, and part of the heat is being done by a tin knocker and the other part of the heat is being done by a plumber, right? So now I have one category called heat for $8,500, and I have to sit and differentiate between how much I pay the HVAC guy and how much I pay the plumber.
Okay,
right?
that makes sense.
In general, they prefer GC. What we do see on a regular basis is we segregate out for septic, right? Because the septic contractor doesn't want to hear about how the plumber's not done yet, right? Or the GC's not done yet. He wants to be paid. I'm done with the septic. I got your county approvals. Now pay me. Fair, right? I've done what I'm supposed to do. Now pay me. So we'll segregate septic, right? That's a pretty common one. So
But it can't be do it yourself, can it?
Now you can, and it's written that way. The lenders tend to discourage it. And maybe I can let Bill chime in more, because the philosophy, as far as it's been explained to me, is that the borrower is presenting an income stream to support the mortgage. The legitimate question that gets asked is, all right, while you're fixing up your house, how are you making money to pay the mortgage? All right. So again, it's possible. It's something that the lenders tend not to like. But Bill, do you want to chime in more on that?
Sure. So buyers have to give a time and talent letter. The underwriter is going to decide whether or not they have the wherewithal to do the work. However, they still need a bid from a contractor as if they did none of the work.
Right.
So it doesn't, we're not going to allow a discounted repair budget, because if they broke their leg, we still have to get the house repaired.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I've seen it before where the lenders mandate that we put in market rate labor and materials, then release only for materials and pay down the mortgage balance with the labor amount in the budget. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Want to go another one, or you want me to keep going?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right. So again, like I said before, right, just either ask Rose for a copy, ask me or Bill for a copy, right? But definitely take a picture. This is the basic philosophy. How do you expand inventory with property requiring upgrades? I think, okay. Yeah, sources, right? So how do I find properties requiring upgrades? COVID has slowed things down a little bit in terms of REO, but and maybe you as realtors can give me a little bit of insight. What is supposed to happen once the moratoriums get lifted? Do you know when they'll get lifted and what that scenario looks like?
Moratoriums specifically on what?
And state by state, right? But I know that there are a large number of areas where foreclosures have been halted, evictions have been halted in order to comply with COVID issues. Now, where that stands and what's the expectation for that clearing up, I don't understand. That's, I guess, the question I'm asking.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, it's I want to say another 3 months. What month is this? It's a while for evictions, but that's, all I'm aware of.
Well, I guess my answer is right. And then this line here is not 100% accurate. We still do REOs, but not as many as we used to. A lot of it now is people buying those small capes and then putting additional square footage on it. A lot of people have additional bodies living in the house, and they need to have more rooms in order to house them. Smaller houses in desirable areas, that's again that photo that I showed you before, right? Aged listings and estates with dated finishes. I have a bunch of them where realtors have said, this house, I couldn't sell it for 3 years, right? Because it had orange shag carpeting and the person smoked in the living room for 60 years. right? Well, that's us, right? Show up with that house, we'll get that done for you. That's our specialty. We know how to do those for you. REO asset managers, and this one is, again, maybe not the most appropriate given where we are now, but if you have relationships with asset managers, there are times when they need to move product, right? So if you maintain those relationships and you get, if you get a relationship with someone who calls you up and says, I need to move 3 properties within the next 60 days, can you help me? Right? Now, all of a sudden you have a motivated seller who might be able to give that young couple a deal that they've been looking for a while with you. All right. And by the way, Rose, if you wish, right, if you want to grab pieces out of here to share with your members, just feel free to use whatever you want, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, any way, shape, or form that you can, you feel like this could be helpful, please do.
Sure. I appreciate
all right,
that.
so we're going to go through a little bit of photos. I'm sorry, did I hear someone who had a question? No? Okay. So these are some examples, right? Exterior, a lot of exterior work, right? Buy it for $325, upgraded for $50, worth $400, right? Buyer gets equity. Here, another nice, this time a blue bathroom, right? Back in the day, everyone loved the bright colors. Now everyone wants all the neutral tones. Same thing again, right? They upgraded for $85, it's worth $400. They bought it for $275, they get equity in it. This is actually one of my favorites, and this is one of the earlier projects that I did, and the numbers have changed, right? They bought this small little house, and someone told me, and they were right, should have taken the picture from the fire hydrant the second time that I could prove that it's real. This is real. It's in Mahwah, New Jersey. They bought it for $350. Today's upgrade would be north of the $375, be substantially north of it, and it would be worth probably $1.2, $1.3 million at this point. But you're allowed to take these properties down to the foundation. You have to keep the foundation. You can expand the foundation, but that's what they did, right? They tore it down and they put a whole bunch of new square footage onto it, and they basically constructed themselves a new house. So that's kind of a common question. How deep can we go? Down to the foundation. You got to keep the existing foundation. You can expand it if you wish. Let's see. So more before and afters from kitchens and bathrooms, right? Again, this looked like a serviceable kitchen, but they wanted a new one, right? They're eligible. This was again a small one. They upgraded it for $215, right? It is the same house. Oh, and I can prove it. Someone pointed this out. Look at the tree over here. You see, it's an unusual looking tree. Here's your unusual looking tree again. So it's the same. It's the same house. All right, so here comes the part about how do we get these things closed, right? A fast closing of 45 days is achievable if everyone is participating on the same page, right? And that's a borrower, a contractor, and a lender, right? If one of them doesn't participate, the time will go, will stretch out, right? So, and I would ask Bill if he could chime in on this. Am I, given the current state of volume, is 45 too aggressive or still okay if everyone is on their P's and Q's?
So it totally depends on how fast that buyer can get a contractor's bid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Agents, when these loans get delayed, it's 99.9% of the time because the buyer hasn't secured a contractor. So you got to get your bid in quick. You see that HUD foreclosure that came up for sale. The buyer wins the bid, but then it takes them 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get a contractor's estimate, and you end up missing that settlement. So that buyer that can get a bid within a week or so of contract, he can close in 45 days. That buyer that can't get the bid, I have one now. Guy is buying a multi-unit in the city of Pittsburgh. We're about 3 weeks in after the contract. He does not have a bid yet.
So question, Bill. So the timeline, so you write an offer, but you can't really submit it to the seller until you get that bid, because what if it doesn't work out, or what's the timeline for that?
Well, the
Or do
buyer.
you get, or do you get a contract with the seller contingent upon, I guess?
Yeah, well, right. You got to get the contract into the seller so you can get it accepted.
Okay.
You do want to identify to the seller that the buyer is getting a renovation loan. If it's a 203K, we have a separate addendum that the buyer and the seller sign. If it's conventional, you'd want to write it on the last page of the contract. You know, the buyer's getting a renovation loan, and and said some agents will use the ACA addendum subject to purchase price plus renovation,
Okay.
just to make sure the seller's aware.
Okay.
But the
6% assist?
FHA allows 6% assist.
Okay. All right. So just general FHA guidelines, 3.5% down?
Yeah, or conventional. I
Okay.
mean, 3 to 5 down
okay.
conventional.
Oh, it doesn't have to be FHA. It could be conventional.
No, we do just as many conventional.
Oh, okay.
Just the buyer just has to get those bids. That's job one once they go under contract.
What about USDA or VA?
So VA had a moratorium on their limited rehabs. They are now allowing the appraisers and requiring the appraisers to go back inside. So we'll be rolling VA back out shortly. We'll also be bringing USDA back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just 5 easy steps, right? Set the maximum budget. That's the conversation that we had before, right? You want to make sure that you pre-qualify the borrower and the property. We'll take care of the property piece, right? You call us and say, hey, look at these 6 pictures. Bill told me they can max out at 50. Can you get it done? I can give you a reasonable idea generally within 10%. Oh, and as realtors, by the way, if you have a distressed property, take some pictures in the basement for me. I know it's not the most exciting in terms of selling your listing, but boy, it helps me be a lot more accurate, right? If I can see if the plumbing, electric, and the heating is in reasonable shape or not. So then we inspect the property, we do a walkthrough of the property, we identify required and desired items, and that's what I went through before, right? Required items, everything that the local construction official would mandate. Desired items, everything that they wish to do, everything that they've seen on home and garden television is really what it amounts to. The combination, again, of the two should not exceed the future appraised value or the maximum budget that we've been given. As long as you stay within those parameters, the maximum budget, you'll have a loan that closes. We, at the site, educate the borrower and contractor, and also our introductory information shares with them that renovation financing summary, as well as explains our role, process. We try not to overload people with information, but we do give them a good amount of information. We've tried to parse it down as much as we can, because I know that as part of the mortgage and real estate industry, because of disclosure requirements, we give a lot of information out, right? And there's a point at which we found that people stop reading. So we try to make sure that only that information that is really useful to what they need, that covers the most important items, are actually shared in our information that we distribute. So we issue a signed report to order the appraisal, right? Usually within 48 hours. We will then work with the contractor to make sure that the budget that we've given, the estimate that we've given, is acceptable. We'll explain to them required items. We'll also explain to them desired items, and the fact that, you know, even though they gave a bid for doing $90,000 worth of work, if we stick with that number, then the loan's not going to close. They're not going to get the house. Contractors understand that. They want the work too. They will give a bid sometimes that the borrower has, you know, the dream house, and it exceeds the amount. So we try to make sure that the contractor doesn't give bids that are going to prevent the transaction from closing. If the borrower and contractor sign our report and an agreement, our report gets added to the purchase contract, and that's what the appraiser gets. So the appraiser, back in the example I gave before, gets a 325 purchase contract, gets a $50,000 SOR, specification of repairs, written by us and agreed upon by the borrower and the contractor, and that triggers the appraisal. If everyone is working on the same page and doing what they're supposed to be doing, we can issue within 48 hours of site visit. And that, in a nutshell, if you, like Bill said, get the contractor to agree right away and get them, participating actively in the process, we can get these things done very quickly. So I I have here a list of common questions, but at this point, instead of going to them, if anyone wants to ask me stuff, please do.
And what I've done is put at the start of the Zoom, I put Bill and Peter's contact information in the chat. I'm going to add that again because I know we had a few people come into the meeting after I did that. I'm also going to put in links to register for some other upcoming Zooms. But if you have any questions whatsoever that you didn't think of to ask Peter or Bill today, I'm going to give you their contact information. Please remember, Bill.Stouffer is one of our affiliates, and he's in our affiliate directory that anytime we send you an email, you get a copy of the BCAR affiliate directory. You can easily find him there.
Would you like me to go through some of these questions, or do folks need to go?
I think that if you want to touch on some of the most asked about ones,
Sure.
I want you to do that.
Yep. So how much does the house need? That kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Required items and desired items. The required items are not necessarily, you can't eliminate them. The desired items you can reduce/eliminate in order to reach your budget. We are all licensed home inspectors because we have to be in order to secure the FHA licenses. We are not doing a home inspection. We can at a discounted rate if you wish. The majority of our clients do not retain us as home inspectors when we do renovation consulting. And the reason is because we'll walk through the house, we'll inspect the way we do a home inspection. The difference is in the report that we issue. On a home inspection report, I would write something along the lines of, the roof has exceeded its expected useful life, recommend securing an estimate from a qualified contractor prior to the conclusion of the inspection. I'm sure you've all seen it numerous times. Under 203K, I say, here's 12 grand for a new roof. It's the difference, right? So we're looking at it the same way. We're writing a different report. We're putting numbers on the home inspection report, as it were. Contractor selection and referrals. This one's an important one. It is my strong preference that you find your own contractor. We are the folks that hand out the money. We don't want to be perceived in the industry as suggesting the hand into which we release money. With that said, we keep a long list of contractors. And what happens is at the end of a project, if my draw staff will say, reach out to the homeowner, say, would you recommend this contractor to friends and family? If the answer is yes, they get put on our list. If there is a request for a referral, we're sending out a hold harmless agreement. We're trying to make sure that they have tried as hard as possible to get their own contractor first. And then we will do referrals with them. The contractor list is broken down into county as well as specialty. So specialty tends to be a renovation of existing square footage and or add a level stuff. Upfront monies, there is a varying lender overlay policies with respect to upfront monies. It tends to be easier on home style than it is on 203K, but there are a variety of upfront monies. If you want to speak about that more specifically, either Bill or myself can answer that for you. We talked about required items and desired items. I think I touched on that several times. Contingency, these loans have a contingency amount of between 10 and 15%. If the utilities are on, it's not an elaborate project, there aren't a ton of stored items, will likely go to 10%. If the utilities are off, it's mandated to be at 15%. The use of contingency is at any time during the project for health and safety. And once the project nears a certain amount of completion, the lender may entertain additional uses of contingency for additional repairs or increased costs or nicer stuff. Any monies that's left in contingency at the end of the project goes to pay down their mortgage balance. So that, in a nutshell, that's it. I think, Bill, did I hit your time that you got to go at? Oh, yeah, it's 12:41. So
Yep, I'm good.
Question about inspections.
yes.
So when you go through and look for the required items, it's required, you mean required, are you doing a home inspection? Like if someone wants a new kitchen and a new roof, are you checking to make sure that the air conditioner temperature drop is correct?
So it doesn't go, you can retain us to do a complete home inspection at a reduced rate, and we do that. But in general, folks don't retain us. So no, what we'll do is we'll take a look and see, we'll turn it on, take a look and see if the utilities are on. The utilities aren't always on, right? So if the utilities are on and I see a condenser from that's older than 10 years and it's been sitting out in the rain uncovered, we're likely going to budget $3,500 for replacing a condenser if they wish. Air conditioning is a desired item, not a required item. Heat is a required item. Mm-hmm. So does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of pluses and minuses for the seller because in this competitive arena that we're in now, if someone comes along with a straight FHA and you're competing against someone with a renovation loan, the seller and agent might not understand, the listing agent and seller may not understand it. They go, this is too complicated, forget that one. But on the other hand, if you're not asking for any inspection repairs, then it's to their advantage.
Yeah, you take the house as is, where is, right? And that comes up a lot, actually, is where you have a house that, people will say, the appraiser might say, you got to correct some things here, right? We get houses that are in rough shape, very rough shape. So if you have one that's in rough shape, right, this is a solution for you.
So you would still check that you're going to have a home inspection done, but you would just roll everything into that loan then?
You could elect to have a home inspection done or not. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other folks with any other questions? Are we good?
We are. I know a couple people, we had just 2 more people join us here within the last couple minutes. So I want to assure those folks that I'm capturing who you are, and I will be sending out Peter's PowerPoint. Again, this is Bill.Stouffer, who we know as a BCAR affiliate for many, many years, and he is with Guaranteed Rate Affinity. I will be following up with their contact information in the emails that I send out to all of you. And I want to thank everybody for attending. And Peter, Bill, do you have a final word?
I can tell you this, that Reno is helping people solve inventory issues. It really is, right? And we're having people knock on our door more than ever at this point, right? If you do it right, it's a great, great solution. And if you do it right, they get the house they want and they get equity, right? I mean, I'll just scroll back to this real quickly, right? I mean, this is what we're doing on a regular basis, right? We're telling the realtors, now you have 3 additional houses you can show them. Yeah, but they're terribly conditioned. Yeah. But take a look at the price. And if you fix them up, guess what? They get what they want. Oh, and by the way, if they don't spend too much, they get equity as well, right? So if you position it as the home and garden television solution, to the ugly house, yeah, this works real well.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, both Bill and Peter, for helping us out. And just one more time for the folks that just joined in, I'm putting in registration for our next 2 Zooms, and Peter and Bill's contact information. And if anybody has a good idea for a Zoom, please reach out and let me know. And a special thank you to fan favorite Leslie Pazer for her inquiring mind and all her terrific questions. Thank you, Leslie. And thanks for joining us today.